So before we look at the physical and psychological elements to riding that are going to help us when we're looking for that pump out on the trail, we're going to look at those personal elements, you and your equipment, and particularly your equipment. You'll notice our bikes seem to have shrunk and don't seem to have as much suspension as usual. We're looking at a specifically designed jump bike here, which is great for releasing the energy in the trail. The geometry is set up so that we can pump really well. The size of the bike means we can move around nice and freely. And a pump track bike like this, or a jump bike, perfect place to start. The lack of rear suspension means that everything I feed into the bike can be channeled into creating more speed, and nothing's lost by the bike bending as I ride.
Don't forget, these bikes are set up for pump tracks, but it's easy to set your own up the same way. Put a little bit of extra air in the tyres, stiffen up the suspension, change the setup a little bit and drop your saddle, and you've got a bike that will ride round. Obviously, if you're running a full sus, you're never going to have quite as stiff as a little jump bike, but you're going to be able to get the bike round the track and practice those all essential skills out there on that bike too.
The other element to the setup is obviously your clothing and attire. Skinny jeans and a vest are de rigueur on a pump track. They will make you go faster. Our wardrobes didn't contain those, but I did manage to dig out a nice unpeaked helmet, which will clearly make me fast and in and out on the track.
Definitely.
So just because we're out on a pump track doesn't mean we need to forget some of that core stuff that we've looked at in previous issues. And first thing we're going to look at is our body position and look at driving the bike from what we call in term the pocket. It's really important to keep your mass in the right place on the bike. We are going to be moving around and generating extra force to drive the bike, but our core position, setup position, needs to be riding the bike from the pocket. Matched to that, we need to think about what we're doing with our wrists and heels, and as ever, with our looking.
So coming into the transition, maintaining that body position, sitting into the pocket and pushing the bike through a key. Here we're looking at the transition in the vertical, so the downslope and the upslope. And you'll see on the pump track how that's a lot more pronounced than it is on the trail. So you can really see the downslope in front of us here, rolling through into the upslope on the other side. And pushing down into that slope and up the other side is really key for driving the bike through the section. If we do that from the pocket, we're the under-rotating mass and the bike's the accelerating mass being driven through the section and carrying all of that speed that we're looking to carry to keep us flowing around the pump track.
So we've got both ability to pump down slopes and up slopes, front sides and the other side. And that's what we're going to try and do to make sure we squeeze every little bit of potential energy out of this trail and turn it into speed. We'll have a quick lap round and you'll start to get a picture of where we're at with our body position. But check out the footwork and looking for heel drop, wrist drop. These transitions can suck your eyeballs in, so really important to try and pick those eyes up and look through the track and not get caught in looking into down slopes or looking into the face of the next pump. Keep that brain ahead of the bike, it'll keep your bike going faster, be more fluid and less chance that you might chuck in the odd little comfort brake, which won't do much apart from lock up the back wheel and cause damage to the track. Won't really help in terms of your speed control that greatly. So if you're working the transitions in a trail or working a pump track correctly, you're going to get yourself a total body workout. It's not just about the arms or just about the legs, but using them both to create some speed. Obviously, gravity is going to help on that downslope and accelerate the bike, but we're going to emphasize that by driving energy through the bike, through a dropped heel, through a dropped wrist, and making sure we're pushing through the transition and making the bike accelerate faster than it would just simply by rolling. It's the same dynamics as standing up on a swing, a little bit similar to a Newton's cradle of energy coming in and through and pushing out the other side. The bike becomes the accelerating mass. We're under rotating through the bike and driving that bike.
Understanding the transitions is key for where you're going to get that energy management really working. When we look at a transition, we've got three bits to it: the top, the middle and the bottom. And then on the way up, we've got the bottom, the middle and the top. And pumping down through those three phases and making sure we're pumping through from the top down through the middle, through the bottom, and following that through makes a really big difference. Again, when we're riding, if we hold our breath, it tenses our chest and our lower back. So breathing on the pump track is all about learning to breathe out on the way down and then breathe out again on the way up. What that does is it keeps us nice and relaxed, keeps everything flowing and stops us from overthinking what we're doing. And so as we come in, we look to keep our wrist and heels dropped, as Richard was saying, push down into the bike and then relax, push through on the way down, relax and push through on the way up, hitting those targets. When you start pumping, it's a little bit like a plane trying to get lock on in a dogfight. Is you'll be looking for that zone and it will take you a while to feel the pump and get your timing right, but when you find that sweet spot, you'll be able to stick it every time and really start to carry the energy through the trail. So much so that you'll begin to know whether you need to use more rear or front push to actually accelerate the bike through, and you start to develop the other techniques that energy management enables you to bring into your riding, such as the manual, in and out of corners and little jumps over section as you push through them a little bit faster. It's a really cool technique, and understanding the terrain, again when we get out onto the big trail, helps us to read those trails and carry that speed out there as well. So we'll watch as Richard enters here at the top, pushes down through the middle into the bottom, and then pushes back up on the other side, bottom, middle, top. A nice smooth flowing action is the key, and follow through is what it's all about. You'll see Richard keep his head up, maintain his body form as he goes through, and really push and breathe as he pumps the trail.
So the up-down pumps, really obvious to see and spot, and everyone can make use of those. You can feel it happening without doing much. As you drop down a slope, you get some compression towards the bottom, and that's the start of a pump, with your mass driving you down and in through the bike and creating some more speed. Slightly less obvious transition, if we flip a dip onto its side, gives us a corner. There's still a transition that can be worked, it's still got those 3 sections as Ian referred to, but it's another area which we can pump, and pumping through corners will turn you from a kind of a pretty smooth rider into a really smooth rider.
So getting that corner technique is all about learning how to feel the corner and then get it to work. As Richard mentioned, it's got the top, middle and bottom of a vertical transition lying on its side, but we also have as a corner in and a corner out. So if you're really on it, you can take the top, middle and bottom of this corner in here and the bottom, middle and top of the corner out there, or you can take corner in, corner out, corner in, corner out. Sounds complicated, but what we're looking at is seeing the trail as a series of transitions that we can pump. And what the pump tracks lets us do is practice that without the worry of every other thing happening around on the trail. So we've got a clear vision through here, we can keep our head up looking through, and we can push in and breathe out as we go around. And breathing is really the key here, is getting that outside foot down, driving the bike through the section, or if you're riding pedals level, really exaggerating that hip twist to drive the bike through the section and carry that energy all the way through the corners as well. It's one of the big things, as Richard said, that you'll learn on a pump track, is how to carry that speed in the turns, and that will really translate onto the trail later. What we're going to have a quick look at here is one of the things that can really interrupt the flow on a pump track, which is being pushed. The way we want to think about this is if someone came up behind you and gave you a good push behind the shoulder blades with your arms up or your toes down, you'd fall forward. You'd become the over-rotating mass effectively, stopping you from being the under-rotating mass, which is what we've been working on all session here on the pump track. What can cause that is if your arms are up, and so you're very much up on your arms, or if your toes are down, pointing down at the ground, and that can push you too. So making sure you've got your wrist dropped and your heel dropped into the bike and sitting into the pocket really all helps with pushing through. Again, if you do feel that push, it's very easy to breathe in and hold your breath. That helps that push forward even more. Whereas what we want to do is when we feel that push, is to push first. Even better, if we can push before we get pushed, then we know we're not going to get pushed, if that doesn't sound too much of a riddle. And so what we're looking at is riding the track, learning to pump or push the bike through the transitions here really makes that work. As Richard always says, it's called a push bike for a reason, and what we're looking to do is to push it through the track here and make sure it's all working. So we're pushing the bike and it isn't pushing us.
So here on a pump track with obvious smooth transitions, semi-regular, finding that pump's going to be nice and easy. You start to get that feeling of the bike accelerating, carrying your speed, driving energy out of every undulation in the trail. You're going to get fit as you like, lose your winter coat if you spend any time on one of these pump tracks, but more importantly, when we get out to a trail where the pumps are less obvious, we're going to carry more speed with less energy. That's going to give us a faster, smoother ride, which we can keep going for longer. So let's take this technique, switch up a bit of kit and hit the trails. We're going to start on a more trail century type trail where the pumps are more obvious, and then we're going to go to some natural trail and eke out those hidden transitions that, if you unlock, can bring you the speed that you're looking for and leave your mates in the wake of your dust wondering how the hell you're getting all that speed.